Vrajadana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivanagari Gopijana Vallabha Girivanagari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pavikadrajacharya Shota Shota Shishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right, so reading from Canto 2, Chapter 10, Text 17. So, anyways, I guess, well, these are kind of, some of these words are confusing. You pulling it up? Okay. So, word for word. Pranena Akshipata Kshut Trit Antara Jayate Vivoho Pipashataha Jakshataha Cha Prak Mukham Nirabhidyata. Pranenak Shipatak Shutrid Antarajayate Viboho Vipashato Jakshatascha Pranmukham Nirabhidyata Pranenak Shutrid Antarajayate Viboho Pipapshato Jakshatascha Pranmukham Nirabhidyata Pranenakshipitakshuktrid Antarajayate Vibhoho Pipashato Jakshatascha Pranmukam Nirabhidyata. Mataji's? Okay, so word for word. Pranena, by the living force. Akshipata, being agitated. Shrut, hunger. Trit, thirst. Antara, from within. Jayate, generates. Vibhoho, of the Supreme. Vipashataha, being desirous to quench the thirst. Jakshataha, being desirous to eat. Cha, and. Prak, at first. Mukam, the mouth. Nirabhijyata, was open. Okay, translation purport by His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The living force, being agitated by the Virat Purusha, generated hunger and thirst, and when he desired to drink and eat, the mouth opened. The process by which all living beings in the womb of the mother develop their sense organs and sense perception appears to follow the same principles in the case of the Virat Purusha, the sum total of all living entities. Therefore, the supreme cause of all generation is not impersonal or without desire. The desires for all kinds of sense perception and sense organs exist in the supreme, and they take place in the individual persons. This desire is the nature of the supreme living being, the absolute truth, because he has the sum total of all mouths. The individual living entities have mouths. Similarly, with all other senses and sense organs, here the mouth is the symbolic representation of all sense organs, for the same principles apply to the others also. Om Gana Timanandasya Gananjanjana Salakaya Chakshurunamritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shukta Palakamanam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupam Sarvajatam Sahakana Ragraptam Mitam Tam Shrivam Sabadvaitam Sabadhutam Parijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Vadan Sahakana Ritam Shri Vishakam Ritam Sha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Bhaktivikas Swami Nitamani Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurivani Pracharini Nivishesha Sunivani Paskirtana Shtarni Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Praninakshipata kshutrid antarajayate vivoho pipashato jakshatascha pranmukam niravidyata. The living force being agitated by the Virat Purusha generated hunger and thirst, and when he desired to drink and eat, the mouth opened. So we are continuing the description of the Virat Purusha. And so this description in particular is beginning with the mouth, and with hunger and thirst, and then desiring to eat and drink. And so Srila Prabhupada in the purport makes some interesting points. So let me see here exactly. So the main thing is that the desire, that is, so the original desire for different things, to eat, to sleep, to see beautiful things, whatever it may be. We'll just say the original sense organs and sense perceptions, those originate in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's not that something they happen independently. And so, just particularly just thinking about this verse, with the mouth, so I mean, you can really get into different things. So with the context of this, it's being mentioned with the mouth. So the mouth, as we mentioned, there's different ways of understanding it. So the mouth, particularly, it's for eating and drinking, and then the tongue specifically is like for speaking and tasting and stuff. The next verse, I think we'll talk about that. Yeah, the palate. And so, anyways, we're not going to have a class about the tongue today. So we understand that from the mouth, the simple thing is eating, that very much influences our consciousness. So, it just seems like in this verse, whatever, eating and drinking, okay. But it's actually a essential part to life, actually, because everybody's eating and everybody's drinking. And it's not like, some, anyways, this also too is it's like some amazing high spiritual topic in and of itself, just eating and drinking. So the important aspect here is to understand that this desire originates in Krishna. And so all things that we understand in this world, so just like eating, just like I was speaking before, Krishna sleeps, we eat, Krishna has a desire to enjoy, we have a desire to enjoy, like that. So anyways, these are things that are originally found in Krishna. And so anyway, so I'll read a verse here from the Bhagavatam. You can pull it up if you want. So 10, 13, 11. So I'll just read the translation. It's a long verse. So this is a sloka explaining about Krishna eating. So Krishna is yagna bhuk, that is, he eats only offerings of yagna. But to exhibit his childhood pastimes, he now sat with his flute tucked between his waist and his tight cloth on his right side, and with his horn between his waist and his tight cloth on his right side, and his horn and bungo and cow driving stick on his left. Holding in his hand a very nice preparation of yogurt and rice, with pieces of suitable fruit between his fingers, he sat like the whorl of a lotus flower, looking forward towards all his friends, personally joking with them, and creating jubilant laughter among them as he ate. At that time, the denizens of heaven were watching, struck with wonder at how the personality of Godhead, who eats only yajna, was now eating with his friends in the forest. So a couple points there. So one important aspect to understand, which is it's central to our philosophy in Krishna consciousness, and let me see if Prabhupada here mentions it. Okay, yeah, so he mentions it in the purport. So therefore, the supreme cause of all generation is not impersonal or without desire. So the absolute truth isn't impersonal, and it's not with desireless. So the reason I'm reading this verse is that this is an instance of, and there's other instances also, but of Krishna eating. So it's not that, Krishna doesn't have to eat. So there's a lot to be explained with this actually. So one very important point to understand that there's material eating and spiritual eating. And that's a very important point that we have to understand. That the function of eating and hunger and thirst and all those things are there within the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But it's not that, if he doesn't eat, then, he will, if he doesn't eat properly or whatever, then he loses weight and he becomes anorexic or something like that. That's not the case with Krishna. Or if he doesn't eat, he'll become malnourished and, his skin will become pale or whatever it is. That's not the case with Krishna. So Krishna's eating is transcendental. He doesn't have to eat, so he eats for, it's his pastime and his enjoyment, just like it's mentioned here with the cowherd boys. And the demigods are surprised that, that he's sitting there and eating with his friends, and how is it that he only eats things that are offered in sacrifice? Because it's mentioned here the name Yagnabhuk. And if you look at the word for word Sanskrit, Yagnabhuk Bala Kalehe, which is like one of the last words mentioned. But Prabhupada gives a translation that although he accepts offering in yajna, for the sake of childhood pastimes, he enjoys foodstuff very jubilantly by his cowherd friends. So one thing is too that Krishna doesn't eat how we eat. Like if you offer a sacrifice, you throw grains into the fire or whatever, or ghee into the fire. So Krishna in that sense eats. It's also mentioned, I don't know if it's mentioned in this purport, but it's mentioned in other places that Krishna also eats through the mouth of brahmanas. So anyway, there's different ways of it. And then we also understand that Krishna can eat with his eyes and things like that. But Krishna also can eat with his mouth. And that's why there's that picture over there where Krishna, this is that verse, or part of it actually. Krishna's sitting, hanging out with his cowherd boyfriends. And there's another picture also which is like really famous. I don't know if I have that on my phone. But it's like, it's Krishna sitting there with the cowherd boys, and he's having a good time eating. That's a really famous picture in ISKCON actually. It's usually like in the Prasadam hall or something like that. Anyways, I don't know if I have it, but I think we've all seen that picture for the most part. So Krishna is eating and he's drinking. So the Supreme Absolute Truth eats, drinks, and gets hungry. We also see that too, that Krishna was getting thirsty and he was angry with this Damodar Leela. That he wanted to be breastfed by his mother. So she put him down and he broke some pots. And then he also steals the yogurt and he eats it and throws it around. So this here, because Krishna is a supreme person, so he has his transcendental enjoyment by that. Because there's satisfaction from eating when one is hungry, or drinking when one is thirsty, in that sense. So that original desire to eat and drink is found in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so you can pull this up. Just go to Canto 10, Chapter 58, and then you can go to the index and just start at text, maybe like 15 or something. So it's important to know that, because otherwise if we have a misconception about the nature of the Absolute Truth, just like Prabhupada mentioned here, if we think he's impersonal or he has no desire, then we'll misunderstand Krishna, and we'll misunderstand what he's doing actually. And will there be some faulty understanding on our Krishna consciousness? So you're at chapter 58? Is this Krishna book?
I'm sorry.
Let me see. Oh, keep scrolling down. Yeah, you're right. So go to text like 15 or something, and then I'll read some of those. Okay. No, just the index, go back. There we go. All right. So this in particular, this pastime, maybe just turn it. So Arjuna I have some trouble today. So Arjuna is hunting in the woods, killing the different animals. And so I'll just read a couple texts. So with his arrows, Arjuna shot tigers, boars, and buffalo in the forest, along with rurus, shabaras, gavayas, rhinoceros, black deer, rabbits, and porcupines. I don't know what some of those animals are, but let's keep going. A crew of servants carried to Yudhishthira the slain animals fit to be offered in sacrifice on some special occasion. Then feeling thirsty and tired, Arjuna went to the bank of the Yamuna. So anyways, just to make the point, so Arjuna is feeling thirsty and tired. We'll read the next verse. After the two Krishnas bathed there, they drank the river's clear water. The great warrior saw an attractive young girl walking nearby. So there we see in text 17, go back up. Anyways, I'm not going to read so much. So anyways, another name for Arjuna is Krishna because he's also blackish. So they both drank the water in the river. I think it was the Kalindi River. But anyways, so they drank this water, and so anyways, they drink this water. So they drink water. So the thing is that it's amazing. These two devotees are drinking water, and they're not drinking water how we drink water. We drink water. Well, maybe not us, but myself and other materialists. We drink water just to satisfy our sensual desires. To enjoy in the material world. There's some inconvenience. We just try to make a comfortable arrangement so that the material world is a nice place to make the material world nice and comfortable to enjoy. So anyways, so Arjuna was thirsty, and so they went and they drank this water, and it facilitated Krishna's pastime. And so anyways, what will happen here is that one of Krishna's wives, Kalindi, will come out of the water. Anyways, I won't go into that. But she'll come out of the water, and then she'll propose to marry Krishna. And so anyways, Krishna will marry her. So on the material platform, when we get hungry or we get thirsty, outside of Krishna consciousness, then we become implicated in the material world. And we see that so much so that, Srila Prabhupada attributed wars and mass slaughtering of humans on humans to humans and genocide and all these things due to people's tendency to eat meat. So when someone eats meat, they get implicated in karma. And it's not good karma, it's bad karma. Good or bad karma is ultimately bad, but specifically by performing vikarmic activities, that really destroys one's spiritual life very quickly. So when we eat the material world, we become implicated. So, whatever, we eat, if somebody eats, steak or whatever, things like that, and the whole country is doing that, and then they fight wars, and then they kill, their population, and they kill their kids in the womb. And it's due to lack of spiritual knowledge. But Srila Prabhupada would explain that this is why wars are happening, actually. So this is the proper way to understand that. And so anyways, people eat all kinds of different things. And then most things that people eat, especially nowadays, it's bad for one's health. So like we were explaining earlier, that when Krishna eats something, it's not that Krishna or the residents of Vrindavan, that they're getting cancer in Vrindavan from eating foods that are GMO and things like that. So those things weren't like that in Dwapara Yuga. Another aspect too is that eating also affects our consciousness. So if we eat certain things, that affects our mind. And then there's that saying that, you are what you eat. And there's also a famous verse also. You can pull this up too. This might be a little tough for you. So Anchilila, so Chaitanya Charitamrita, let me see here. So Anchilila, chapter 6, text 278. Oh. So anyways, so eating and drinking are essential parts of human society. And then also too, we see that when somebody wants to try to be more renounced or something, then they may reduce their eating. And then we see that too, fasting, that's popular in different religions and things. So chapter 6, text 278. So, but that's also there. So, reducing eating and things like that. But anyways, Krishna doesn't have to fast. Chapter 6, 278. It's just a small point. Anyways, this is a very important point, actually. Mahotsa Prabhu has quoted this one a lot. We all know this, but Mahotsa Prabhu. You got it? 278? Yeah. So let me see you turn it so I can see the Bengali. Yeah, this is it. Let me see the Bengali. So, Vishaya, I can't really see it. Vishaya ana kale malina hoya mana, malina mana haile nahi krishnera samora. So this translation is, when one eats food offered by a materialistic man, one's mind becomes contaminated, and when the mind is contaminated, one is unable to think properly of Krishna. And then let's read the purport. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur suggests that people who are materialistically inclined in sahajyas, or so-called Vaishnavas, who take everything very casually, both Vishayis or materialist. Eating food offered by them causes contamination, and as a result of such contamination, even a serious devotee becomes like materialistic man. That's a pretty important point. There are 6 kinds of association: giving charity, accepting food, offering food, taking confidentially, and inquiring confidentially. One should very carefully avoid associating with both the sahajyas, who are sometimes known as Vaishnavas, and the non-Vaishnavas, or Vaishnavas. Their association changes the transcendental devotional service of the Lord into sense gratification. And when sense gratification enters the mind of a devotee, he is contaminated. The materialistic person who aspires after sense gratification cannot properly think of Krishna. So the important point about this verse is that we should be careful about what we're putting into our mouth. Especially, we're living in the temple, and we have the association devotees, very fortunately. And we're also very fortunate that, that we just don't buy nonsense from the store and then put it in the temple and say it's prasadam, which some temples do, unfortunately. But if for some reason we have to go outside and travel, or go to different devotees' houses, we should anyways, for the most part, from not everybody, but a lot of devotees, for some reason or another, they don't follow this principle which is mentioned in the verse, and then they eat things which are cooked by karmis, and there's different excuses given for that it's made by a machine and this and that, or or whatever. It's cooked 50% by a non-devotee, and then we cook it the other 50%, or whatever it is, whatever excuses somebody gives. But scroll up here. Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, scroll up a little bit more. Or wait, scroll down. Okay. Srila Prabhupada makes the point in the purport. He says, even a serious, so eating food offered by them, so Vishayis are materialist, which is, which is, Wonder Bread, all these different things, it's, you go to a restaurant or whatever. This is Vishayi. If you're confused about whether someone's a materialist or not, you can ask them, do you know who Krishna is? And if they say they don't know who Krishna is, or there is no God, then they're probably a materialist. If there's any confusion in your mind, if they don't have tilak on, and they don't have neck beads, and they don't read Srila Prabhupada's books, and they don't chant Hare Krishna, they're probably a materialist. Or maybe they're a Paramahamsa, playing the pastime of being a pure devotee, and they're just in a dormant state. So Prabhupada says in the purport that eating food offered by them causes contamination, and as a result of such contamination, even a serious devotee becomes like a materialistic man. So a serious devotee. So Prabhupada doesn't say just a neophyte devotee, or regular devotee, or just some struggling devotee. He says a serious devotee. So that's really serious, actually. So it's important for us to know this and understand that, because we may, go out and travel, and we may be put into a situation where someone is, is offering us something that's cooked from the store. They may ask us, do you eat bread that's from the store? So our answer is no, we don't. We don't eat bread that's offered from the store. And we should make that clear also to devotees, that we don't take things. We only take stuff that's cooked by devotees, and we don't take things that's from the store or has karmi grains in it. Even if it's something like, whatever, it's a piece of burfi and it just has a little bit of karmi grains cooked in it, we don't eat that. Well, we were just like, it's just a little bit of karmi grains. We don't want a little bit of that. So it's important. And so this mouth that we have, it has to be engaged in Krishna service, because otherwise, as Prabhupada makes that point, Krishna makes that point in the Bhagavad Gita, I think this way, Udaret Atmanam Avasadayat, Atmanam something, report, Atmana, Hey Report Atmana, something like that. But he makes the point that the mind, with the help of the mind, one can be elevated and one can be degraded. The mind can be the best of friends or the worst of enemies. So the mind, if it's not fixed properly in Krishna consciousness, it's seen as like the, I'm trying to find the exact word, but anyway, the mind is seen as sometimes as like the controller of the other senses. That if the mind is just like totally off track, then the senses will similarly be off track. But if the mind is controlled, then it can be used to guide the other senses, or the intelligence, or whatever like that. So, if our mind is properly attuned to Krishna consciousness, and our intellect is similarly fixed in sastra, and our senses are purified, then we'll be okay, and we can navigate in this material world properly, and engage in activities which are meant for the ultimate. What is this? Can you pull up verse in the Bhagavad Gita? I think go to chapter 17, and just go to the index, because I think it's like the last verse. I don't know the Sanskrit to this verse, but let's go to the second to last verse. Okay, let me see here. Yeah, so turn it. So Krishna makes this point in the Bhagavad Gita that the absolute truth is the object of devotional service, is indicated by the word sat. The performer of such sacrifice is also called sat, and all works of sacrifice, penance, charity, which, true to the absolute nature, are performed to please the Supreme Person, O son of Prita. And then let me see the next verse. Anything done as sacrifice, charity, or penance without faith in the Supreme, O son of Prita, is impermanent. It is therefore called asat and is useless both in this life and the next. So the point is that sat, so we're always trying to engage in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if we do those things properly, then those have eternal benefit and elevate us. Otherwise, if we don't, if we just, whatever, we just make a sacrifice for some nonsense and just do whatever, then the result is impermanent and it's useless, as Krishna says, both in this life and the next life. And we should definitely take his authority in on that. So eating, drinking. So we also see from the acharyas, anyways, this, I don't know if you'll be able to pull this up. I'll pull it up real quick. It'll probably take you a minute. But, so in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's song, Shuddha Bhakata, he says in the 5th verse, Yugala Murti Deki Amora Parama Ananda Hoya, Prasada Seva Koriti Hoya, Sakala Prapancha Jaya. And the translation of that is that whenever I see the transcendental Sri Vigraras of Radha Krishna, I'm in bliss, for by taking their lordship's prasad, we can conquer over the material elements. So by taking the prasadam of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we can conquer over Maya, actually, the material energy. If we ever feel like we're in Maya, we can take a lot of prasadam, whatever it is. But if we take a lot of prasadam and then we knock out, then we probably took too much. But at least that will be a prasadam-induced coma and not a coma induced by sense gratification. And Prabhupada would encourage devotees also when they were brand new to take prasadam up to the neck. And we see that too, that's also the pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of taking a lot of prasadam. And that's pastime, and that's also one of the loving exchanges of the devotees. Sri Advaita Acharya fed Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then so many devotees fed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and gave him so many different preparations. We offer, food stuff, bhoga, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his enjoyment, and then it becomes prasadam. We offer it to devotees. We take it. So eating is honoring is a big function of our lives. And so this function originates in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because we can think too, he generated hunger and thirst. So hunger is needed actually, and thirst is needed. Because otherwise, if you don't get hungry, then when you eat, you don't feel hunger. Sometimes if you have indigestion, I've had the experience. Prabhupada says in one place that if you eat too much, then for 3 or 4 days, you won't eat, or you won't be hungry. You have to fast. And so I used to hear that, and I used to think, what is Prabhupada talking about? And then it happened to me. For like so many days, it was like barely eating anything, just because I ate the wrong thing, and suffering. But if we didn't feel hunger, then it's like we wouldn't know when to eat or what to eat or whatever. It would be difficult to maintain the body. So by Krishna's mercy, we feel hunger, and then when we eat when we're hungry, then everything becomes delicious. Just like yesterday we had that big feast, and then like an hour later, if we cooked another huge feast and then sat everybody down, we would be like Like, oh my God. Sometimes if you go out and you travel in India or you go to somebody's home, you may have had a big meal or something like that, or go somewhere like a guest house and then they cooked for you, but you're full, but then you have to eat anyway, and it's just like an austerity. I don't know. You probably had that experience, going maybe some donors, Chandan, going to some donors' homes. You never had that? I've had that a couple of times where I just took lunch and then I go somewhere else and then they want to serve me lunch. And it's just that feeling is just oh my God, I'm completely full, but it's you have to take something. Gurumaj talks about that traveling in Bangladesh, that it's the middle of the night, you're full, but they're not satisfied unless you eat a whole mound of rice. And it's 12 o'clock at night. So that's is the culture to take something. But if we didn't feel the hunger, or if we're not hungry, then it doesn't work out. Anyways, that's not the case with Krishna. Though Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did have the pastime of having indigestion, and then he was given little different special treats like that. So then also too the desire to drink, and then also drinking. The next text will talk about the palate, but then just becoming thirsty. If we didn't become thirsty or hungry or whatever, and then we may also die. And then drinking is required also. You can, anyways, I've heard it said, we don't really know, but it is the scientists say or whatever that you can. Well, I mean, I've also seen it, but you can last longer with You can go without food for so many weeks and months, but if you don't drink also, that's the problem actually. So drinking is actually required, it's essential. I mean, eating is essential also, but drinking is very important. Everybody drinks, and so Krishna says, "Was this rasoham apsukonteya," that I am the taste of water. So the principle of thirst is generated by Krishna, and it's found in Krishna. And then the taste of water, which we quench that thirst, is also Krishna. So in this way, we can always be Krishna conscious. When we get really hungry, we can think that Krishna created this hunger. And then Krishna also goes on to say that in the, I won't remember the Sanskrit. I think, what is it? Oh, I can't remember. But Krishna says in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that he's the fire in the digestion. And then anyways, Prabhupada also says, so when the fire is weak, then anyways, there's indigestion. So Krishna is the fire and digestion. So Krishna, and then also too, that's understood that way, that generally, that there's a fire, not literally that there's a fire burning in the stomach, but the acids and stuff like that. That's kind of the understanding. Oh, I don't remember that Sanskrit. Anyways, so Krishna is similarly, he's generating that. So anyways, hunger is originating within Krishna. Anyways, a lot that can be said about all those different things. So by taking the prasadam of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so we conquer illusion, we conquer all these things, we don't become implicated in so many different things. And so that tendency to drink and things like that. And we actually see too, I looked up some stuff. Anyway, there's some fun things, but also, just kind of, I guess, one funny thing that's not so funny. So that tendency to drink also, then people drink the wrong things. And anyways, some people drink some nasty stuff. I won't say so many things. But then there's also, too, that tendency to drink liquor. So Prabhupada would say that because people eat meat, then they need, wine and alcohol to digest it, so they drink that. And so anyways, people drink and then they get intoxicated and they do stupid stuff like that. Anyways, also, too, within the different pastimes, there was not a central point of it. There's this drinking and eating facilitates some of the Leela of the Lord and his devotees. So one actually, I found this by accident actually, but specifically if we look at that pastime with Bharat Maharaj, that deer was actually drinking water, and then it heard the roar of the lion, and then it had the deer had the miscarriage, and then so the pastime goes, so Bharat Maharaj, he was a great devotee, and he was in the woods meditating, and then he became attached to a baby deer that was born, I guess prematurely from another deer, mother deer. I don't know what a baby deer is called exactly, but is it fawn? Okay. Doe. Okay, so the doe gave birth to a fawn. Thank you. Yeah, doe is a female deer. There's a song about that. So anyways, so that deer was, drinking. And so anyways, it gave birth in that sense. We also see, too, probably more on the serious side. So Devarsha Muni, this pastime also. So Ambarish Maharaj was following Ekadasi, and he was fasting for, so many, I don't remember how long, but he was fasting for a good bit of time. And so Devarsha Muni came, and, he wanted to have his lunch. And so he went to go and bathe in the water. And so he was taking a long time bathing. And during that time, it came time to break the fast for Ekadasi. And so the Ambarish Maharaj consulted with learned Brahmanas and came to the conclusion by their advice that he could just drink some water and that would break the fast. Because traditionally, like Ekadasi fasting was like a whole thing. Like he wouldn't even drink water in Nirdral. So we don't do that. We have a Ekadasi feast instead. So anyways, and that's all right. So he drank some water, and Devarsha Muni understood that by his mystic power, and so he cursed Ambarish Maharaj to die because he didn't receive him properly. So anyways, so the point of this is that, that he drank that water, and ultimately that facilitated the pastime of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Devarsha Muni didn't take it like that and tried to kill him. And actually that was a whole problem for Devarsha Muni. We see too specifically with Maharaj Parikshit, when he was on tour, he was similarly, slaying the bad population of animals in the forest. He became hungry and then thirsty, and he went to ask a sage for some water. And when the sage didn't give the water, he got angry. Of course, this is also pastime of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But I'm just making the point that this aspect of thirst is increasing the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees, and facilitating more transcendental exchanges. Because otherwise, if Krishna didn't become, Krishna becomes transcendentally hungry, but if Krishna didn't eat, then we wouldn't have anything to offer him. Or I don't know how it would work. Anyways, Krishna created that system and it's working perfectly. We don't have to speculate about what it wouldn't be like. But Krishna, by his mercy, he takes this form of the Archa Vigraha, and we offer him different foodstuffs, and we take those remnants. And so it's an amazing and essential part to Krishna consciousness. And there's so many different preps like that, which we can honor and we can take. And anyways, we're not discussing the tongue so much in this verse, so we won't go there. But the point of all this is that, and I've said it multiple times, but the Supreme Absolute Truth is not impersonal. That variety is found there, and desire is found there too. Similarly, Krishna has a desire to eat the different preparations which are cooked by his devotees with love, out of this reciprocation and this exchange. So all these things are there. So anyways, so Krishna is the cause of all causes. We discussed that in the previous verse, that ultimately he's the cause of everything, though it may be a little bit far removed, further down the line, but he causes all these things. And so if we act for his pleasure, and we engage in his service, then we're freed from, the results of karma, there's that verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Yagnartho karmano nyatra lokanam karma bandhanaha, which Krishna explains that by engaging in sacrifice for his pleasure, one is freed from the results. So when we engage in Krishna service, when we become Krishna conscious, though we may do the same things, we may eat, we may sleep, we may taste different things. There's so many different things we may do, what seemingly, Vishayis do also, or Sahajas do. But the thing is, when we have the central point as Krishna, everything is properly placed, and so we're actually freed from that this bondage, this contamination. And otherwise, if we don't do that, then we become implicated in that. Anyways, there's a couple verses I'll read here. You can pull up. You pull up a verse, and I'll pull up a verse. So you pull up a verse from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 51, and then I'll pull up a verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then we'll end there. So, you got it? Okay, great. I'm going to pull up my verse real quick. It's a little far away. So, anyways, these are two nice verses. So I'll read my verse first. So, tatapi vishera swabhava karimaha anda. Say karma karya yaite hoya bhava banda. So this verse, so this is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking to Raghunath Das Goswami. I won't narrate that whole pastime now. Those who are attached to materialistic life are blind to spiritual life. Those who are attached to materialistic life and are blind to spiritual life must act in such a way that they are bound to repeated birth and death by the actions and reactions of their activities. And then, this verse in the Bhagavad Gita, so karma jamburi yukta hi phalam twaktva manishinaha janma banda vinir muktaha param ganchan yanamanam. By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages and devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become freed from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead. So that's the main thing. So by engaging in devotional service under the authorities of gurus and Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, though we may be in this world and doing different things and acting, we become freed from the results of that. So, we have to eat, and we get hungry, we get thirsty. So we get hungry and we get thirsty for Krishna's prasadam, Krishna's mercy. And when we get hungry and thirsty in that way, we become freed, because then we're not acting on the material platform. We're becoming hungry for Krishna. We become hungry to, when we get hungry also, then we fill our stomachs with Krishna's prasadam. And then with that energy, we utilize that for Krishna's service. So the whole process of the senses are centered on Krishna consciousness. And then there's so many different things like that can be understood in that way. Speaking, that'll be coming up later. There's so many things that can be said about speaking. That's like a huge part of, just Krishna consciousness, of speaking absolute truth, and of hearing like that, so many different things, smelling, all these different aspects are there. So, but the main thing is that we have to be Krishna conscious, not that we lust after things or try to have that enjoying mentality or become contaminated in that sense. So anyways, there's a couple things there. Short class, simple class. But anyways, Hare Krishna. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments about anything. Let's get the mic.
Yeah, just an important, you're making the point over and over again. It's like this, even within devotional service, just because we're within devotional service, it doesn't mean that we're like free from these things. If we become materialistic again in our minds, then one is just called a pretender, as Krishna says in this second or third chapter. Is that?
Third chapter.
Third chapter. So it's just like important for us to, within devotional service, to always cultivate that sense of renunciation, that whatever situation it is, that we perform devotional service, not that we wait for a particular situation to come about or imagine such a situation in our mind to be some situation to be perfect in which I can execute devotional service. Because if we're always thinking like that I can't wait for this situation to be perfect so then I can do my service nicely, then actually it's not a proper understanding of devotional service. One has to the point is to always be ready for that. Prabhupada often mentions that. This always hit me when I was in university, that devotional service can be performed under any time, place, and circumstances. There's no limit to it, whether one is poor or rich or whatever. So it's important within devotional service to cultivate that attitude of that I can perform service under any of the circumstances. Not that I need this and that. Then it becomes materialistic. Oh, Krishna, give me this and give me that. That may be there from a pure devotee, but often we read in the 5th canto, in the 8th canto, that if a neophyte prays for such a situation and Krishna if he's given that or he gets that position, then he'll simply just fall down. So Krishna often doesn't give that. Yeah. Even to the neophyte, because materialistic things distract us from devotional service.
Yeah, thank you for that. I was trying to see here. I know, I'm trying to see exactly if I have it. But that's, let me see. It's kind of made, but anyways, but Srila Prabhupada would make that point actually often to his disciples, because that's a good point actually. Because sometimes in Krishna consciousness, like you're saying, that you think, well, if this was different or that was different, then I would practice Krishna consciousness better. You know, like, you know, I don't know. There's gonna be so many different things. Like if I was over here, then it would be better because over there, you know, they serve like oatmeal for breakfast every day, and I like oatmeal, and I like the kirtans over there, this and that. And then what happens? And somebody, anyways, I've seen so many times, and then that person goes over there, and then the oatmeal is really good, and the kirtan is really good, but then it's really cold in the temple, and it's always something else. But Prabhupada would often make this point in letters, and I have like a little list of things that like I'll read from my own personal bhajan. So one of the letters, he makes a point that, let me see here, he makes it in different things. I'll read this one. This is to Himavati and Hamsaduta. But you should know, this is part of it, you should know it perfectly well that wherever we may stay or whatever condition we may be put into, Krishna is our life and soul. We cannot stop our activities in Krishna consciousness. The motto should be followed very rigidly by chanting 16 rounds and observing the regulative principles. But Prabhupada, to a lot of his disciples, he would make that point that, like, you know, that going here and going there is not going to like change anything like that, because we can get in that mentality that, well, if I change this and change that. He was just saying that Krishna consciousness isn't dependent on our material circumstance. And it's important to know, actually, because sometimes we can get really caught up in that. And the thing is that it could just be something the matter with our consciousness. But because we're always trying to like go here, go there, change this, change that, we don't realize that we're not Krishna conscious. And that's a really important point, actually, to that whatever situation that we're in, that we have to be Krishna conscious, and whatever it may be difficult. And Prabhupada was like saying like that in another letter. Let me see here. But let me see. So yeah, Prabhupada, I'll read this little part of this too. So, sometimes Krishna may put us into some difficulty just to purify and force us to advance in Krishna consciousness. Devotees should always see his difficulty in this light, that Krishna is so kind upon me for creating this condition of struggling. Thus he is relieving me of so many billions of lifetime of sinful reactions by this very insignificant and temporary condition of suffering something. So Krishna's trying to purify us, but then it's just that we can't handle it, and then we think, well, I'm going to go run over here, run over there, go do this, do that. Then we won't be able to get the full purification. Also, His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Maharaj was making the point in the appearance of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in Mayapur. He made a very amazing point, but he was saying how, like, anyways, he was talking about how people, we may think, oh, it'd been nice to have been born during that time of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur or something like that. But he was saying that wherever we took birth, that was the arrangement of Krishna, so Krishna put us in that situation for the best of our Krishna consciousness. So we always think like that. Like, yeah, it would have been good to been like when Papa was around or some great acharya or whatever or something, maybe, but it would have been easier for Krishna consciousness. But it's like Krishna understands like what's good for us, because we don't know what's good for us. And so Krishna so he arranged, us to take, whatever, birth in a particular place or whatever, be born in a certain time and this and that, to come to Krishna consciousness in a certain way and certain association. So we should really see that as Krishna's mercy. So if we'll always have that eye and that perspective of seeing everything as Krishna's mercy and really praying in that mood and trying to understand and surrender in that way, then we won't be overly agitated or disturbed by whatever situation we're in, and we won't want to change it. And then if something has to be changed or is changed, then we'll see that Krishna's hand in that the Guru may tell us to do something, or, some opportunity may come up or whatever. But we shouldn't be overly anxious to keep changing things to, in Krishna consciousness. So anyways, thank you for that. Yeah. Maybe give me the phone, because nobody will be able to hear.
Then we'll see that Krishna's hand.
Hare Krishna, you can speak.
Some opportunity may come up or whatever. It shouldn't be
Hare Krishna, Motsa.
Keep changing things to Krishna consciousness.
Hare Krishna. All right. No, I'm on the phone. I don't.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right, you can talk.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Most Guru has a. Yeah.
All right.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, one thing, I was also thinking about
is that, Lord Chaitanya made it so easy for us to make advancement in Krishna consciousness, And in previous ages, you had to perform austerities. There'll be so much fasting, so much this, that, and the other thing, But for us, it's so much feasting, actually, So much feasting, so much chanting, dancing. It's such a good time, actually, Krishna consciousness, But people are so unfortunate, they miss upon this opportunity. And especially devotees, they don't understand that when we cook for Krishna and we offer to Krishna, that Krishna is so pleased with that sacrifice that you're making, taking time out just to eat only what's Krishna prasadam. And he infuses that prasadam with his mercy, There's so much mercy that's there. But, we can say that, okay, no, we want to go eat outside, we want to eat karmic grains and this and that. But these people are so unclean, it is unbelievable. We were receiving books in UCF and there were 5 of us, of me, Jadhav Krishna Prabhu and myself. We just went to I had to use the restroom and he had to use the restroom, so we went. And then when we were in, we used to use the restroom and we were walking out. And then some guy, working like a Chick-fil-A or something, used the restroom, passed through and walked straight out. He just walked straight out without even washing his hands. And these are the people who are making the food for for everyone else to eat. Their conscience is horrible and they're so unclean. What are you eating, But most devotees, they just don't see this. They think, anyway, what's the harm? It's just bread. But who is making that bread? Who is making that bread? Does the person making the bread know that they should take a bath after passing through? Do they even know that? What to speak of spiritual standard, just materially speaking, it's so disgusting, So it's very, very unclean, actually, very unclean. But that's like a symptom of the demons, actually. It's a very symptom of demons. Or the Bhagavatam tells us, Sattvam Yat Brahma Darshanam, that if you come to the platform of goodness, then you can actually have darshana of the pure goodness, Vasudeva. Once you come to the Sattva platform, you can come to the Vasudeva platform and then you can have darshana of Vasudeva, Krishna. But it's just so unfortunate, so many devotees, they just miss the point. And my Guru Maharaj, and I was actually, I was looking into this a lot, and and I was asking Janardhan Krishna Prabhu sometime, when he was a kid, would his dad let him eat karmi grains? Would his dad let him eat karmi grains? His dad would not let any of his kids eat karmi grains at all. And that's one of the main reasons why I feel that, Janardhan Krishna Prabhu, his brother, his sister, they turned out so much different than all these other gurukuls. And I asked them, what about all your gurukuls? They eat karmi grains left, right, and center, these people. So even Guru Maharaj was saying, that the main reason why the Krishna conscious movement has gone down the drain, especially in North America, is to eat karmi grains. I've gone to maybe 2, maybe 3 houses where there haven't been karmi grains. I went to the house of so many devotees and they all have karmi grains in their house. So anyway, I just wanted to say that.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yeah, so anyways, I'll speak on the, you take that. I was thinking, there's an echo. But yeah, I was thinking one thing too, what you were saying, when you were talking about that people, they cook and it's unclean, this and that. But this verse came into mind, Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavir, Brahmagnau, Brahmana hutam, Brahmaiva tena gatavyam, Brahmakarma samadhina. And the translation is that a person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. So just the 2 sides of that verse is that if one who is in Krishna consciousness, or at least aspiring for that, he's engaged in spiritual activities and contributing to that. So spiritual activities also, I would say that would be, taking prasadam and offering and just the whole process that goes with that. And then whatever's offered, of course, is of the same spiritual nature. But if we're not, engaged in spiritual activities and offering things of a spiritual nature, then it breaks that whole chain, as Krishna's making here, of the spiritual nature of things. So anyway, some small comment. You had something I would do there? Yeah.
Yeah, Prabhu, thank you for explaining this in an easy to understand way. It's cool to hear you reference different parts from the Shastra that's related to this verse, because it seems like it's a little out of context, or, but it was nice to hear you elaborate on it and make it relevant. And I wanted to have my comment is, Bhakti Vikash Maharaj was speaking in Mayapur, and Maharaj was making this point that could we live with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur?
Yeah.
And I thought that was really profound, because, they were saying, well, the class has to end, and Maharaj was saying, who's in charge here?
Yeah.
Krishna's in charge. How long can I go on for?
Yeah.
And Maharaj was explaining that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta would speak for 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, something like that. And you even see with disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they wanted to spend, be with Prabhupada, serve Prabhupada, but not many could handle that. It was seeming like, it would be nice to be with Prabhupada, but some devotees who were fortunate enough to have that position said it was like gut-wrenching, couldn't handle it. Some devotees would have that position and then they'd have to leave because, so intense.
Yeah. Jai, thank you for that. You have anything? Why don't you have anything?
So if one takes karmi grains or like food that's made by materialistic people and they become influenced by it, besides like stopping eating those things, like what else should be done to like rectify that situation if their consciousness becomes affected?
Yeah. So, we continue with the process of Krishna consciousness. So we may accidentally like take some karmi grains. That happened to me one time. Unfortunately, like the devotee that was like cooking was not following at all. He wasn't chanting. He was doing this and that, and he was going around and sleeping with different women. And so I took some of his stuff, and then I didn't understand at the time like what was going on, but they had like some nightmare. So the thing is that that may happen, but we continue with the process of Krishna consciousness, and we kind of have to like ride it out, because the mind may become an influence. But the thing is that the mind is, Prabhupada made the point, the mind becomes contaminated. So the thing is that in Krishna consciousness, we're trying to be Krishna conscious, but then we're influenced. Just like we may go outside or something, and then we may be influenced by this billboard, that billboard, or whatever, or hear some song or something like that, and then it's like our mind becomes deviated from Krishna. So these things may happen on protection for that, and Krishna will help us. But there's a difference between, accidentally, or like, something happens or whatever, or there's some difficulty like one time, okay, and then there's a difference between that, like accidents, problems, and just like weakness of heart, but then just complete insincerity of just like, I don't like, like I'm just gonna do it anyway, or I'm just like deliberately like disobeying the instructions of the spiritual master. So when we do, our consciousness will, it's already, speak of a change in consciousness. Our consciousness is already changed because we're willingly disobeying the instructions of the spiritual master. So that means we're insincere, there's something the matter with us. So then big things will manifest after that. But if something happens, we can, we chant, we ask for forgiveness. We tell some senior devotee or something like that this situation happened, like what should I do? And then they may advise like, okay, well you did this, don't do it again, or like you spoke this and like that's good, and like give that instruction there. So, but the main thing is that we have to continue with the process of Krishna consciousness, because that's ultimately the thing that's going to purify us. And then we be vigilant that we don't get into such situations again, or be careful of that. Alrighty. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Prabhupada ki.